Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing you insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide you with an actionable perspective on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Hi, everyone. This is Ruby Powers. I am your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of law practice management. And in each episode of Power Up Your Practice, we're going to get to hear from our guest superpowers and their perspectives on reaching success, no matter however they define it. And today, I'm really excited to have Temi. She and I actually keep bumping into each other in other cities and states, even though we both practice in Houston. And I think the first met at CleoCon 2019 in San Diego, of all places, in line to get books signed by Daniel Pink or something. I don't know.
Yes, that's exactly right. That is
Oh my
exactly right.
gosh.
So funny.
And then we've gotten involved more with ABA law practice division and different things in the law practice management space since then. Yeah.
Yep.
So Temi has seen the boardrooms, courtrooms, classrooms, and everything in between. Her unique lens as a first-generation Nigerian American middle school teacher turned lawyer, navigating race, gender, and purpose in today's noisy business and legal world, arm her with compelling experiences that shift mindsets. And her presentations leave you inspired to take action, empowered with a game plan to level up your law business. And so you are a strategic legal advisor, speaker, thought leader. You support CEOs, founders, and industry experts in startups, emerging growth companies, and you're also protect the brand and scale your impact. And one of the other things that you that I know about you is because I'm on the ABA publishing board, and you're working on a book with ABA about video and branding your law firm. So lots of cool things that you're up to. So why don't we, I don't know, where do you want to start?
We
How
can
did you,
start. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. What, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into all these really cool things.
Yeah, we were thinking the same thing. That's exactly where I was going to start. So, when I finished law school, I was trying, I was one of those crazy folks who tried to say, "Hey, let's start our own practice immediately out of law school." And if anybody else is like me, you quickly find out that law school doesn't teach us about the business of law, and they don't teach us how to get clients in the door. Like that's one big thing that we don't learn. And so I had to figure out, okay, how do I connect with the people I want to serve in a way that resonates, in a way that's engaging, but a way that doesn't break the bank for me. And through that, I was able to discover video. When I first got started, I started by going live on Facebook every week at the same time. First, it would be was it Monday or Tuesday evenings? And then I switched to Wednesday afternoons. But every single week, I would show up live on video, answering questions, sharing pop culture, letting people know about, hey, this is what's going on. This is how just allowing people to understand how the law has everyday implications for them. And that eventually evolved into posting different video content on social media. It evolved into getting onto a YouTube channel. It evolved into speaking at places like ABA Tech Show, speaking on panels with the Clio conference, and all of these other amazing opportunities have really spawned from this place of, you know, putting my ideas out there via video. So I've gotten clients, I've gotten speaking opportunities, I've gotten professional advancement opportunities, all by leveraging video and starting where I was. Like right now, I have some nice stuff, but when I started, I had a Logitech web camera and a borrowed USB plug-in mic from one of my sisters slash friends who helped me. And it's just really amazing to see where things are. And like you said, and there's also a book coming. So lots of different things have evolved since I started.
So what are the different areas that you have right now? You have like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, or what are all the different mediums or social media outlets that you record for?
Oh, beautiful question. So there's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. So I do have some things on Spotify. And I just entered into the TikTok world recently. I was kind of reluctant, but I want some of my content to just be there. And one of the big things for me when it comes to using video, the reason why I love it is you can repurpose it really easily. So that's what I was like, Tammy, it's not going to take you much to have a presence on TikTok, repurpose the content you're already creating. And so I'm able to utilize all of this stuff I've created. My primary area, what I create for is usually YouTube. And then I take that YouTube content and then I splice it, I repurpose it, and I put it in all the other platforms.
So Temi, like it seems like there's all these different platforms, from YouTube to Facebook to TikTok and Instagram and everything. So what are the different links and ideal audiences for each of them? Because I feel like it's sort of confusing. There's a lot to change. How would you describe that for our listeners?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think really what it boils down to is understanding the personalities that are on these platforms. Now, what's happening also is, because every year there's a new social media thing, the new platform, there's also a migration. It attracts the initial attraction of each audience is different. And then over time, it's other people will join it. So if we're talking about YouTube, for example, let's start there. The reason why I like YouTube personally is YouTube is also a search engine. For the most part, people who are going to YouTube are going there with a very specific question or thing that they are looking for. And I think that lends itself to long form video. Now, YouTube has been able to, adopt and create shorts and things like that for that quicker content, but its still primary pull is long form video. And a lot of the people who are on the platform say the same thing, and they feel like it's growing towards that. But then if you look at Instagram, if we look at the evolution of Instagram, Instagram started off with primarily pictures. And then they were like, well, now we're a video app. But then now you'll hear some folks say that they're back to carousels and a mixed form. And so it's always changing. So right now, the last thing that I heard with Instagram as I've been studying it is a mixture of the two, understanding that your posts are more static and your posts are going to be things that you might be able to share. They're going to be things that will pull other individuals or pull people to your platform, whereas your stories are for your existing audience. And so sometimes you want the content that you're doing on your post to be more geared towards lead generation, almost geared towards like that initial pull. Whereas your stories are for that staying on. And even for a while, there was some long form video on Instagram, but they eventually got rid of that. But that used to be a thing that you could go on Instagram for 45 minutes and have like series, and
Oh
they
my
just
gosh.
got rid of that. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's something that they just changed. I mean, people are still going live and doing their Instagram lives and things like that, but that's changed. TikTok is usually a younger audience. And so a lot of times it's like, let's consume content really fast. And it's really a rush of just different things. So if you want to do more like entertainment-based types things, that's going to be if you're going to do more entertainment type things, that's going to be a TikTok platform. LinkedIn is for your professionals. I think LinkedIn, they want to know about industry insights. So that's where you're able to position yourself as more of a thought leader with amongst your peers and maybe your target audience, allowing them to understand that you see their problems from a topical perspective, that you can provide in-depth analysis, that you can help kind of evaluate trends and things like that. So each platform has a different audience that it naturally attracts and gravitates towards, and that's reflected in the content that does well or does better there. But at the end of the day, regardless of the platform that you choose, my thing is always to understand who you are deciding to target and to start with that and allow that to dictate where you position yourself. Right. So if I know that my audience tends to be an audience, my folks, my decision makers are an older decision making group, and that they're not really into TikTok, they're not really into short form. They want, they want to be able to consume content at their own pace, then I might lean towards a LinkedIn, a Facebook, YouTube, and kind of not prioritize the other things. My big thing is to start where you're going to prioritize or prioritize where your clients are, and then figure out if there are ways for you to repurpose your content for the other platforms while you expand. That's my typical strategy. And that's what I usually recommend for busy attorneys, just because we have so many different things that we're doing. It's really difficult to try to be in all the places at once. So I don't try to do that. I try to leave footprints everywhere rather than being in all the places.
Yeah, I think so. I have a lot more questions. Like one of them, and I think that's really important. You want to recycle content, but at the same time, you have to know who your audience is. But like to even go back a step or two, you need to know what your ideal avatar is and how, and then how do you want to, what do they want to hear, and how do you attract them? So I guess like one question I have is how do you gauge your success in doing all this? Like, how do you know whether it's working or not?
That's such a great question, and it can be difficult because it requires patience, right? I was speaking with someone earlier today about desiring to make sure that we stick with the to remember that we're here for the long haul, right? So we're here for in-depth connection, in-depth relationship, right? And really deciding to say, you know what, we're going to focus our measurement of success on consistency first and foremost. So are we showing up the way that we need to on a regular basis? In addition to that, the other thing that I would say is looking at engagement. When I first started, I remember I would go live on Facebook and I would feel kind of bummed out that people weren't always like staying for super long or they weren't clicking. And it really, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to help you guys. Why aren't you paying attention? And that shifted for me when I remember some clients coming into my office and realizing they hadn't watched my whole video, but they had heard about me from multiple people. And so the impression was being made. And so that really shifted things in terms of how I measured success. It was really like, I just need to show up. I need to help them make the association that when they think about business law, they think about Temi. Like I'm the first name that comes to mind every time because they've seen me showing up on a regular basis. Now, in terms of taking it deeper with regards to engagement, and this has been over time. I've invested in learning. I've gotten marketing coaching. I've taken different classes on different platforms to really understand, books, all those things. So I've invested in trying to understand this. And one of the things that I've realized over time is taking the time to really, once I understand who my ideal client is, understand how their day-to-day problems are showing up in their life, how they describe it, and seeing how can I address those specific problems. So I'll give you an example of something that I just recently did. I'm going back to trying to do this mix on Instagram, for example, with a mix of carousels, but video, because video is my thing and I know it resonates. And so
Mhm.
one of the things that I realized in terms of my practice is, people have like, they're creating LLCs, they're creating corporations and things like that. And I could just do a blanketed big picture, hey, what entity should you choose? And I've done things like that before, and I might continue to do stuff. But I said, let me zoom in on this a little bit more. There's a group that I follow that they do copywriting. They're called Maha Copy Co. And I love their content. And I've taken a couple of their courses and their resources because I think they speak to their audience as well. And one of the things they're like, zoom in on a specific pain point or problem. So I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, I have a lot of clients who their main thing is like creating an LLC themselves. That's a big thing that a lot of people do. And they mess up, but they don't know that they're messing up. So I was like, is there a way I can zoom into this problem? So I zoomed in, I broke down specifically things that they should know about creating their own LLC to highlight this information, and created a post or resources about that. The engagement level changed. What I noticed is before where I had a passive amount of like people, viewed it, they reshared it and things like that. But what struck me was how many people also saved the content, right? So
Mm.
not just looking at how many people see it, but looking at how many people saved it. The other thing is that I knew specifically that there were specific eyes that I wanted to get this content in front of. I don't need, when you go back and you're running your business, at some point you can recognize that you don't need everybody to be your client. I don't need everybody to be my client. I need a specific number, specific type of individual. So when I recognize that, those are the people I'm worried about. If 500 people don't see my stuff, that's quite all right because I don't want all 500 folks to become my clients. There's only a small group. I went back to see that though some of those people who I had identified as my target market, they had engaged with the content. They had seen it, they had consumed it, they had liked it. And then I saw a higher number of people who had saved the content, meaning this is valuable to me. I want to be able to revisit it. Now, looking at it from that lens, I'm able to say, okay, this content resonates. I'm meeting them where they are. What are other ways I can do this? Are there other posts and content related to this particular topic that I can kind of extrapolate from, or I can build upon now that I've gotten their engagement on this level? And so that's how it's a combination of measuring success by me showing up on a consistent basis and then looking at the engagement of my ideal client, not just passive views, not just passive engagement, although that's good for brand awareness. That's where TikTok comes in or Instagram comes in. So you want people to know who you are, because if the need occurs, you want your name to come up first. But in terms of recognizing also clients that are able to take action, having warmer leads, right, than the cold leads that usually come with social media, it's looking at the level of engagement and looking at how or who those individuals are. So that's how my analysis kind of plays out.
Well, I think that's all great. I think what would you also suggest that like the success is like who hires you and like who turns into a client? Because I mean, how does that do you like have metrics or use a CRM or like ask how people find you, and do you use that as a metric of success as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so important to do that. So as soon as anybody tries to schedule an appointment with me or they go to my website, one of the things that they have to do is fill out a very, very short intake form. It's nothing long, but one of the primary questions is, how did you find me? So I'm able to go back and see that the majority of the calls that I get are from individuals who find me on YouTube, who find me via these platforms. And then I'm also able to measure and track how many of those individuals move from a phone call, move from a consultation, and become a client at the end of the day. And able to say, okay, now that I'm looking at this, this is how I want to kind of gauge this. This is what I see occurring here. So I'll say this, and I've talked about this when I've done trainings for other companies that I've been a part of. One of the things that I share is, for the most part, a large portion of individuals, a large portion of business owners, law firm business owners, you're going to find that a lot of your clients come from referrals. Right. And it's just one of those things that it tends to be the case. People who are ready to take action. So going back to your ideal client, the ones you've worked with, and asking them, hey, is there anybody else who's in your market that you want to introduce me to that I could help, is always going to be beneficial. But I also like to empower the people who are my referral sources by giving them and I think of content creation as part of that. I think of content creation as a way to consistently have something to give somebody who is interested in learning about me. Sometimes you'll have folks who are tire kickers, but you still want to make sure that you have goodwill that you've established across the board. And so me having a library of videos where I can always say that even if you can't afford to come and see me, you can still benefit from helps that I have created, comes into play when we're looking at those free resources. And then when I have folks who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to send your information to my so-and-so, because I've had that. I had some folks say that a couple of weeks ago, oh, I'm going to send your info to this person or that person. I'm like, great. And you can go ahead and you can send them, videos to show them, hey, this is how they can start to engage with you. The reason why I like to send that is one of the things as practice attorneys, or as attorneys, we have to recognize, depending on your practice area, is you may, across the board, sometimes legal professionals have a bad reputation. There's already a suspicion, a distrust sometimes, because people are dealing with sharing their most personal information with us. And so we have to be intentional about building trust and developing rapport with our potential clients. And video really helps to do that. So if I know that I want someone, or I know one of my referrals or one of my old clients is sending someone their way, they have a trust that they've already had that's going to be imputed to whoever they send my way, which is beautiful. And it's also reassuring for those individuals to be able to see content and say, oh, wow, you're right. Even, I'm taking this in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and this is already valuable, or having clients come in and say, before I scheduled the call, I binge watched all your videos and they helped me answer so many questions. It's just a really powerful experience to have.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's like a secondary tool, or maybe a primary and a secondary, because like they might have heard about you from somewhere else, but then they start building almost a connection like with you by having watched you. And I love it when I find out that they're directly from one of the videos, like they heard about me from somewhere, but they saw me on TikTok or something like that. So I have a couple nitty gritty questions, like, and I just want to like sort of maybe rapid fire a few of them. Like, what, like, do you edit this stuff yourself? Do you have a team? And like, how do you monitor like comments and engagement? And do you keep track of like, where do you try to capture people's content or like emails and try to funnel them so you can stay engaged with them?
Great question. So I have had external editors before, and then one of my editors, my primary editor, had some things happen, so I had to find somebody else, and I wasn't crazy about their work. So I've done a large portion of my editing myself, and so I try to simplify the work that I do. My videos are not super extravagant in terms of most of them are talking heads. Like if you look at my videos, they look exactly like what we have here. So I have a fixed setup that allows me to do that. There's certain elements and tools that I use that allow me to have things readily at my disposal. So I use a tool called Ecamm Live to help me facilitate live conversations, but I also use that to record most of my content. And it just allows me, once I've done the setup, to get in there, boom, press a couple of buttons and spit it in out really quickly. So my editing process has been truncated because of the tools that I use in the setup that I've done at the forefront. Now, after posting, in terms of keeping up with comments and content like that, I'm still the one who does most of that, just because I want to know. I use it for gathering information. I like to know the questions that people are asking. It helps me to figure out, okay, where are my clients? What's going on in their head? What types of problems do they need to get solved? So it's just a valuable research tool for me. So I'm, for the most part, particularly on the different platforms, I'm the one who's kind of keeping up with that. I have a lead paralegal and some clerks that have assisted me in the past with some portions of that. But that's that for the most part. And then you asked me a third question, but I kind of already forgot.
It was about like, do you try to capture their contact information? Because I've interviewed some other like what you call like YouTubers, I guess you could say. And they said that the platforms change the rules all the time. And so they really take a focus at capturing people's contact information so that if the rules were to change, they could still find people and be able to stay engaged with them.
Yes, I for sure do that. So I have an email list. So one of the things that at the end of my videos, one of the things I think is important for attorneys, business owners in general, is we always have to be thinking about whatever that next step is for our clients. If they've engaged and consumed our content, they might be wanting to take another step, and telling them what that is. So at the end of my videos, I always give them potential options for next steps. Say, hey, if you want to connect with me, these are the ways you can. If you want a free checklist, this is how you can get that. And usually the free checklist is the opportunity that people take in order to continue connecting with me. I also do offer, and this has been one, and I'm going to be consolidating it soon. That's actually one of the things I'm working on. But I also have an e-course that I've created, a free e-course about protecting your business and your brand. So I have a ton of folks who flock over there. They enroll in the course, so they start engaging in that content, and just seeing me again, figuring out, okay, how can I understand that? And I use that to also provide some foundational information for clients, because I'm in the business and corporate space, business and brand protection area. And so there are some fundamentals that I do like people to have in mind as we're engaging and as we're talking. It helps us. So that's also where that course comes in. So that allows me to stay in front of them a little bit more, allows me to have methods and means to communicate with them, so that I can engage. Because like the folks that you've had before say, it's just, at the end of the day, these platforms are owned by other individuals. And so they can change the rules on you very quickly. And you should be cognizant of that. I feel like the rules on YouTube have changed a bit, but I told myself when I got on YouTube, I wasn't getting on YouTube to go viral. I was getting on YouTube to help people, to provide answers. And I wasn't looking at, like, I got into YouTube almost accidentally. It was like, it was me taking my Facebook Live videos and then uploading them, because I was like, this is a search engine. Let me just put it here. It'll be easier for folks to contact that. And then I remember going back after I'd done it a few times, and I saw one video that was just performing amazingly well. And I was like, what's going on here? And so when I went back, yeah, I went back to see it, and that was like, oh. So then I started to become more intentional about, okay, well, I see what's going on here, and more strategic about it. And that video right now has 44,000 views. I have other videos with like 24, 20, 35,000. And so I'm strategic with it, but I also remember that at the end of the day, the thing that has allowed me to resonate with people is my desire to help them. I have a big sister who she always says, make it your number one desire to help people, to help God's people.
Mhm.
And and she says when you focus on that, it takes away the lot of the other things that usually stop us from showing up. So, sometimes we're self-conscious, sometimes it's imposter syndrome, sometimes it's just all of these other things that get in the way and play with our minds and kind of get us to not show up in these spaces. That's actually one of the things I spoke about at Tech Show with one of my co-presenters, Olivia, the less stressed lawyer. And so when we were talking about that, it was really like, okay, you get all these thoughts that kind of bombard you, but if you decide to focus on, my goal is going to be to help a person, right? Like even on this podcast, my goal is to make sure that whoever hears this, they come in to speak to Ruby, to hear you. We want to make sure that this is valuable. If I focus on that, if we have this conversation and you ask these amazing questions like you're asking, and we focus on making sure that it's going to be valuable, we don't have to worry about the next steps because we know that we've resonated with our audience. And then I don't have to worry about, oh, I stuttered a little bit here. Oh, I stuttered a little bit here. They're going to see past my little flaws and they're going to receive the value that I've made sure I've put out there. And even if not everyone does, that's okay because someone will. And so I really focus on helping a person move from one step to the next. That's my main focus.
I love that. And I think that's so critical when you're doing the videos, to know what your success metrics are. And it can evolve over time. One of the things that I've been fascinated about, having doing this podcast and just doing so much with my law firm and then in the Power Up Your Practice and Power Strategies group space, is the recycling of content or repurposing. And you mentioned one about posting the Facebook Live video on YouTube, but can you give our listeners maybe one or two other little tips, and maybe even what software you use, before we segue into ABA Tech Show?
Oh, for sure. Because it's one of my favorite things. So like this is again why I love video, because video is easy to repurpose. So the tool that I use when I record the Ecamm Live, I was saying, one of the things that it can do is it can help isolate audio. So when we talk about being present on Spotify or being present in these other platforms, if you look at my podcast, I have two. I have the Ask Temi Live, but Ask Temi Live is really a compilation of all my YouTube videos. And what I've done is I've extracted the audio from that and I've uploaded it. And I've been doing that for years, right? And
Yeah.
so folks who aren't necessarily going to be watching YouTube videos, but they are podcast listeners, they're going to take that content and they're going to, take it in. Another tool that allows you to do that is Biteable. So Biteable, it's free online. They have other things that they provide, but you can upload if you put your videos in there, it'll extract the audio for you. If you use a tool there's another tool, it's a video editing tool called Clipchamp. Clipchamp also allows you to detach your audio, so you can download your audio as a separate audio file. So all of those allow you, if you wanted to take, a video podcast and make sure that you are putting the video in one place and the audio somewhere else, those tools will allow you to do that. The other tool that I like, and shout out to Nkoyo, who's an attorney out in Georgia, who put me on this during one of their Georgia seminars that I was participating in. There's a tool called video.ai. And video.ai is an AI tool, but essentially if you can take, let's say for me, I have YouTube videos. I literally copy and paste my YouTube link into this platform, and AI, it uses AI generated tools or AI tools to determine clips of my content, and it cuts it up into little chunks, and I can add the captions and things like that, but I can have 5-6 clips from one video, and I didn't have to do anything. There's somewhere it will cut up the video, and then there are others where it will try and piece together portions of the video natively. And so I use that, and that allows me to have some content that I can now post to Instagram. I can put out a YouTube short, YouTube short if I want to. I can put it on TikTok if I want to, and that's what I do. So those are two of my primary tools when it comes to repurposing content. It's using extracting the audio using either Biteable or Ecamm or Clipchamp, and uploading it onto a podcast platform, depending on whichever one I'm deciding to use. And also using video to make my clips shorter so that I can incorporate that into postings on social media.
Awesome. And I've heard a lot of good things about Descript as well. A lot of people have been raving about that.
I don't know
But
why I've used the script, but I don't know why for me, I don't know why I don't like it as much. It's a good tool. Like you can
okay.
edit out your you can edit via your text. So it will take your transcripts and you can go back and copy and paste it and it will edit the video. So it is a pretty cool tool. I don't know why I just, and that's the thing, we experiment with tools. So I love to
Right.
try new things out. So I'll try that and it's done. I can't remember. There was one, I used it for something and I really liked it. But for the most part, I've been sticking with my like Clipchamp and these other tools.
So, but I think that's a really key point, is finding ways. Like, it already takes time to make all this content. You have to sound intelligent, you have to look decent, and then, so why not recycle and use it for the different, but you just have to be a little strategic about, having the software and then figuring out what audience wants to see what clips and where to put it. And, even though I don't do a podcast for my law firm, we do a whole bunch of webinars. And so we have the audio, we have the video, and we can be spicing and dicing those into smaller clips, and putting it on our other locations. And I mean, a lot of times we put our TikToks on and reels, and things like that. And so I think that, like, once you get the ball rolling of recording and making a schedule and doing it and getting over the hump of like, oh, everything has to be perfect, because it doesn't have to be, then the next thing to take it up a notch is just start finding ways to repurpose, recycle, and maximize what you've already done, to take it to the fullest. So I'm in that space right now, and I need to make all my team members listen to this recording, this podcast. Okay, so going to ABA Tech Show. So we just recently saw each other there, and you did like a recap video on LinkedIn, and like, what are you were a speaker there, I was a speaker there. What is like your takeaways from the tech show in general? Like, what are your themes? Like what you learned, what you saw, what you didn't see, for those who might have been there or need to know the importance of going to tech show.
Yeah. So the big topic that everybody was talking about was AI, right?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to navigate that and figure out how can we use these tools to also help us become more efficient and effective in our practices, but also what does this mean for the practice of law, right? And so that's the big topic. And I don't know if we came back with lots of answers. I think we came back with just understanding that this is the new world that we live in and everybody is like, be brave and navigate it. And I think that that's the right approach is let's be the folks who are on the forefront, because it's not going away at all. I was at an event yesterday with a couple of business owners and they were talking about tools that were at Tech Show and wondering, like, oh, I've heard about this tool that can do this type of, redlining with using AI. What are your thoughts on that? And, and we have to be able to answer that question. We have to be able to give people an honest answer. And we also have to be able to evaluate what value do we provide. I think that the folks who are most terrified about AI taking, legal jobs are folks who maybe need to rethink how they position the value that they add. I can't be replaced by AI because I have a level of empathy and understanding and complexities that technology never can duplicate. Human beings are complicated individuals, right? And those are things that AI tools just simply can't necessarily understand or connect with at that point. But there are other things that we know, that other areas where tech tools will eventually come into the space and be useful and valuable to people. And should I run away from it or should I embrace it? I think the big thing is learning how to embrace that. One of the themes that came, you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. The other, I completely agree. And the keynote, one of the keynote panels with Reed Trouts and Jane Reardon and Dan Pennington, was about your future starts here, technology in the next era of legal practice. And there's an ABA Journal article about it, And Reed Trout says, in my 37 years in the profession, I've never seen technology come as fast and quickly and as fully as generative AI. We need to decide whether to get on board with it or try to avoid it, but I don't think you can avoid it. I completely agree. And I think, like you, I feel like I came back with more questions in some respects, because now I'm trying to figure out how this is all going to piece together. Because and then Reardon says this is a different moment where there's opportunity for creation and doing things completely differently than in the past. And I think that's completely true. The other thing they were talking about was like how like killing the billable hour and sort of a lot of different things they think that are going to be coming up that seem to be the alternative fee, talking more about subscription and flat fees, which we do a lot in immigration already, flat fees. But they said that the panelists maintain generative AI could lead to all sorts of sea changes, including helping to bridge the access to justice gap, which is super huge and always discussed at ABA, forcing courts and lawyers to guard against deep fakes and other false evidence. But I think also it could affect just how we do court in general. If a lot of things can be done electronically or through mediation with AI, and then also killing the billable hour, which another theme that I saw. But anyway, what else did you see?
No, I love all that. And like, and if, we've been in this space for a while, I think it's cool to watch, especially again, you've been doing immigration. I've been doing flat fees for a while. We've been on the flat fee,
Yeah,
world for a long time. So I think it's nice to see that happening, see more people having that conversation. And I think that given, there's a couple of, there's, like you said, different conversations happening with technology and the law at this time. There's the conversation about its direct impact on the way we practice. But I think there's also a broader conversation that I see people taking up the mantle to kind of enter into that realm, and that I think we're all going to have to. And that's the question of how we shape the way AI impacts the rest of the world. What do I mean? One of the things that we're looking at, or one of the things that we can see, is like it's moving so fast that regulations, like how it's being regulated, how it's impacting the way people are dealing with intellectual property or privacy rights, is shifting faster than our legislators and lawmakers can keep up with, right? And I think that we need to press for more of that, but I think we also we have an opportunity to be innovative, and even the way we are approaching these things in our own businesses, in our own firms, in our own conversations, to kind of start to helpfully help that conversation occur. So what does that mean? That means us having conversations like this. It also means us developing policies within our firms and within our spaces about how we will use technology, talking to our clients about what is safe for them to engage in and what's not safe for them to engage in, kind of developing almost an ethos around it. Not necessarily an ethos, but having an ethical conversation about what does this mean for people every day in our different practice areas. I think is, if they're not asking us about it now, it's inevitable, because these things will inevitably impact all of those things,
I completely agree. And I know we need to have like a whole debrief, like a whole nother day about ABA Tech Show. It was so great. I'm excited to see you and that you were speaking, and we'll continue to share those takeaways. But and our time is short together, but what would you say, and this is my question I always ask, is your superpower, and how did you get this?
All right. So my superpower probably is my ability to I think it has something to do with organizations and like pattern recognition. It's not all the
Mhm.
time, but one of my big things that I like to do, it comes up in different areas. So like assessing the way people engage with speakers, like I'm looking for particular patterns. Or when we're talking about organizing certain things, I don't find myself to be the most organized, but I can look at a pattern and say, based off of what has been established, this is going to be the most likely outcome. And then building back from that, saying what tweaks can we make in a system based off of that. That's probably an unspoken superpower that I have. And probably, maybe, I don't know if this is it too, but it's probably related to it. From teaching, we learn how to build structures, and so teaching has given me some additional superpowers, because I was a teacher before I was an attorney. So maybe that whole bag of tricks of teaching middle school.
Teachers got
So
some amazing talents. Yeah, no, I agree that seeing patterns, as that's my other question I'd like to ask, is about board games. But I find that a lot of the board games I love the most are seeing patterns, and like, just like scanning the situation. Like Rummy Cube is one of my favorites. But anyway, no, that's a great skill that you need to have to excel. So how can people find you? I'm sure a lot of people are really intrigued about upcoming book and how you do your video. And so what are some ways to find you? We really appreciate your time here today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And if you want to follow me on most of my social media handles, it's TOS Legal. Now, if you're an attorney and you're interested in video for lawyers, the book is coming out eventually. It's still in the works, but we also wanted to start helping people sooner rather than later. So I am really proud and excited to announce that the waitlist is open for the Video for Lawyers community. And that's a place where you're going to be able to access resources, courses, checklists, templates, and just conversations, a community of contributors, of people who have empathy for where the day and age is and want to connect and really resonate with their ideal clients in a powerful way. And so if you are interested in resources like that, if you visit videoforlawyers.co, you'll be able to kind of sign up. You'll be able to sign up for the waitlist, but then you'll also be able to receive our YouTube script resource, where we've broken down a script to help you kind of go through your YouTube videos, plan it out and think about it. And there'll just be a host of other tools. But as we're building out the waitlist, you can access that information and get started. I think that's the biggest thing. Just get started. So TOS Legal in general for all platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, even most of our website, www.toslegal. So you can see the website that we have, see all of our videos and things like that are present there. And then if you're looking at Video for Lawyers and you want to join us on this journey of really impacting the world with videos, videosforlawyers.co. And there'll also be an Instagram page for that as well, and a couple of different communities and opportunities for you to engage there.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And we'll definitely have to have you come on later in the year or, to help let us know when the book is out. So lots of things that we've learned today. And I think one of the big takeaways I would say from someone who's been doing video for a while is just do it. Just experiment and start getting it out there, and don't have this like perfection thing keep you from getting it up and going. And like Temi said, see what resonates with people and what has successful metrics and what gets the clients to come in, and then do more of that and listen to things like this and find ways to just continuously improve. So I'm so glad to have you on. You know how to find her. Thanks for joining us on this insightful journey today. Your time and engagement means the world to us. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, tell other people about it. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can connect with us on the Power Up Your Practice Facebook group and keep powering up. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management Podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. Join us next week for another episode where we'll continue to explore insightful strategies for success. Power Up Your Practice with us. See you next time.